He believes in everybody's right. He believes in the right of their ancestry. He believes in their freedom, their right to have freedom. So, if y'all would, I'd like to introduce Ben Jones. He will be talking to us about Southern heritage tonight.
Hey, y'all. Everybody feeling good? Thank you, Commander. I'll tell you what, that was a great introduction. He read it just like I wrote it. So now, I feel very comfortable on stage here. Actually, staying here, I'm not really a singer. I'm an actor by trade. And I figured it out early on. I just get up and act like a singer. And it's worked out pretty good for a long time. But I was here with Dr. Ralph Stanley's band, the Clinch Mountain Boys, and Dr. Ralph's grandson, Nathan. I've known and worked with Dr. Ralph Stanley for many years. If you don't know his work, well, to me, listen to Ralph Stanley sing is kind of like reading the Old Testament. It's just as real and truthful and hard to get around. It'll make the hair stand up on your arms. He is an American treasure. A lot of people don't know about him. But Dr. Ralph, if you ever get a chance to hear Dr. Ralph Stanley sing, take it. Because, well, he's of that generation that is disappearing now. One of the founders of this traditional music. That's a funny thing to say, but traditional music, it's been around for a long time, but it wasn't recorded for a long, long time. Folks up here in these hills, they made their own music. They didn't have electricity, so they brought their music with them. A lot of them from the old countries in Ireland and Scotland and Wales and places like that. And they get together in their parlors or in their on the front porches or at church, and they make their own music, and they teach their kids how to sing and how to play it. And that was passed around for generation after generation. And people like Bill Monroe and Lester and Earl and Dr. Ralph were the first generation to sort of put that together, and they still sing that. So just say it. And it's great. This is a wonderful theater, and we really wish the Cyrus family well. I appreciate what the commander said. I'm a Tar Heel, and I heard the first person I heard say this was President John Kennedy in 1960 in Greenville, North Carolina. I was at East Carolina College, which is now East Carolina University. And whooped the Tar Heels the other day, something like 70-41. In football, that's not good. We don't play. Wait till basketball season. I think Tar Heels will be all right, John. But John Kennedy was running for president, and he needed North Carolina. The governor there was on his side, but you know, it was an unusual thing. He was from Massachusetts. He was of the Catholic religion, and no Catholic had ever been elected president. And there were a lot of questions about his youth. But he came out, there were 15,000 old yellow dog Democrats from eastern North Carolina down in this little football stadium during the tobacco market season. And we were all waiting for him to come. The whole town's full of tobacco and fun. And pretty soon here he came in a limousine, an open limousine, driving into this little stadium. Everybody's hooping and hollering. And he got up and he said, now I'm going to do my John Kennedy impersonation. He said, I'm proud to be here in North Carolina on this beautiful day among you Tar Heels. Of you Tar Heels, it was said that you were first at Bethel, farthest at Gettysburg, and last at Appomattox. And that place went crazy. And that's how he won North Carolina. And that's how he won the presidency. Saying a good thing about us. Saying a good thing about the traditional way of life and about our ancestors. And he wasn't afraid to say it. That was in 1960. That was 54 years ago. And now you'd be hard-pressed to find any politician, national or otherwise, a Republican or Democrat, to get up and say that now. Isn't that strange? Something's happened. Back in 1960, we were about to celebrate the centennial of the war between the states, 100 years. And we were also about to go through a social revolution with the civil rights movement. So people were very aware of the change that was coming. And it was turmoil, yes, but that just lasted a very few years. And the South, all of us, red and black and white and everything else, got together and created a new society, a fellowship, a brotherhood, and one that has become the fastest growing region in the United States of America. Economically, we are now the Sun Belt. Great cities like New Orleans and Atlanta and towns like Charleston, Savannah, you name them, Nashville, Knoxville, Memphis, great cities, people working together, and folks are figuring that out. Black folks are coming back from up north in record numbers because they know that the South is a better place to live and that it has better racial relations. We went from Jim Crow and strict segregation to everybody working together, and we founded it on our southernness. I think that's true. And I believe that racial relations are better here. We get along as Southerners for centuries. We shared the weather, we shared music, we shared food, we shared work. My daddy worked on the railroad. All the men that worked with him were black. They got out there every day, worked all day long. We all lived in a section house on the railroad. None of us had any electricity or indoor plumbing. We all lived pretty much alike, and we helped each other out. The South has a bad reputation for that, and it's because Southerners aren't writing the history and aren't writing the books about all of this. Now, we all know the winners write the history, and the North won the war. And the South lost. But it didn't just lose those battles and lose its cause. It was destroyed. The South was devastated. There was nothing left for anybody. Black, white, red, whatever. It was all gone. Jobs, everything. Money, gone. Nothing. All we had left was pride. And we're proud still. We're proud of those people, our ancestors, and the members who are folks who are here who might not know about the Sons of Confederate Veterans. It was started in 1896 by the actual sons of those men who fought. And now the grandsons and the great-grandsons, direct descendants, carry this on. Nothing has changed. Those men are still as their pictures are on our wall, and their images are in our memory for their courage, for their valor, for their sacrifice, for all they did, the greatest army ever put on this planet, on this continent, with against the greatest odds, against overwhelming odds. They fought beyond endurance the last full measure of glory. So we're proud of them. That's who we are. We look like them. We've got their blood in our veins, and we speak their language. It's a different time. It's a very different time. But you know now, 150 years after Appomattox, after the end of the war, our political opponents, people who have always loved to bash the South and be sanctimonious and superior, they're taking this opportunity to do all they can to destroy our heritage. Now we'll stop for a minute. because I want to tell you something about some of the stuff that I've discovered in my show business career. I worked out of Atlanta for many years. A lot of films came in and were shot there. Burt Reynolds used to shoot a lot of movies in Atlanta, and I was in a couple of those. And a lot of films came in, and this TV show came there to cast, and it was kind of about a bunch of folks that lived up in the country. And they were looking for somebody to play a automobile mechanic who was a little wild and crazy. Well, I had worked, when I was a kid, I worked in a garage. I wasn't much of a mechanic, but I always, had a lot of grease on me at the end of the day. And I was a little wild and crazy. So I just walked in and they said, "You got to park." Just like that. And that was in the fall of 1978. And here we are, 36 years later. And folks know about our show. It's shown all over the world. And I was telling somebody before, in 7 different languages, in 40 countries. I speak Japanese and French. I did not know I could do that until I saw myself doing it on the TV there. But it's been a great adventure. Now, in those days, there were only 3 television networks. Hard to believe. There was a public network, but mostly everybody was watching ABC, NBC, and CBS. There wasn't 300, 400 cable channels. There was no internet. There were no DVDs or VHS or any of that. Technology hadn't been discovered yet. So what people did was they watched TV every night. On Friday nights in 1979, most of those people were watching CBS. Now, when a show is a hit show now, maybe, I don't know, 10, 12 million people watch it. Duck Dynasty gets about 12 million people, something like that. It's a huge hit show. We got 35 million people a week, sometimes 40 million people were watching our goofy old show. Now, there are a lot of reasons for that, but let me stretch out here a little bit. There's an old boy over here with a guitar, and that reminded me of old Waylon Jennings, who wrote the world's best theme song. When I heard it, I said, this show is going to be a hit. Yeah. Just a good old boys. Yeah. Never meaning no harm. Meets all you never saw. Been in trouble with the law since the day they was born. Straightening the curves, yeah. Flattening the hills. Someday the mountain might get them, but the law never will. Oh, they're making their way the only way they know how. That's just a little bit more than the law would allow. Well, I'm a good old boy. You know my mama loves me. And they don't understand to keep a show in my hands and not my face on TV. That's our host right here, y'all. Commercial right there. Oh, welcome to the Cyrus Family Theater. We're very, very honored to have everybody here, me and my fiance Teddy. And tonight, don't forget the Vandells, and this weekend we will be performing with our group this weekend, so come around and see us. Thank you again for being here. Thank you. That's pretty good. I think that'd be a good thing to do. You know, you get tired of old guys up there just making speeches. Well, they had great music. Just like those shows I grew up with when I was a kid back in the 1940s. You know, the great westerns. Gene Autry, Roy Rogers, Hopalong Cassidy, guys like the Durango Kid. You remember the Durango Kid, don't you, David? See? Lash LaRue. See, these were great shows because we go down, like I said, we didn't have television in those days. It wouldn't matter, we didn't have electricity. But we go to the picture show. And I mean, for like a quarter, us kids on a Saturday morning, you watch a couple of cartoons, you watch the previews, you watch a newsreel, then you watch Assyria, an old cliffhanger where some guy's hanging there and it's continued next week. Then you see two, what they call B-westerns, you know. And in these shows, like Roy and Gene, the good guys always won. Nobody got hurt. You can fall off a cliff and have a stagecoach land on your head. You just brush yourself off, you know. Nobody ever bled. Nobody ever cussed. There are always pretty girls like Rancher's Daughter, or the hero would save them from the evil banker. There's a lot of great action, a lot of slapstick comedy. You know, fat guy slips on a banana peel, falls in a mud puddle. Funny at its time, right? So it had all those elements. And when we left, we were so proud of Roy or Gene for doing what they did, because we didn't quite know it, but what they had done was they had made, always under any circumstances, they had made the right moral choice. And that was good. It's a good thing to be raised on, because we wanted to be like them. And they taught us something. They're sort of morality tales there. So the Dukes of Hazzard comes along. It's a show. It's got all this great music. It's got the pretty gal. Ooh, Daisy Duke. It's got these guys who, they're not fancy superheroes or something. They're just old boys, dirt farmers. But they always do the right thing, because that's the way their Uncle Jesse taught them. Dukes of Hazzard was the last show, I believe, on television where they prayed before supper. And nobody really got hurt. You can flip the car over 10 times. It's okay, you're okay. Nobody bled. There are no drugs in Hazzard County. There was no racism in Hazzard County. It was an idyllic fantasy place, but it was obviously the way things ought to be. And it was a show that the whole family could sit and watch together and not worry about what the kids were going to see. And now, 35 years later, it's still a hit. And folks, the bigwigs in Hollywood are trying to, why is that old thing still around? It's because they quit making shows like that. And our show holds up. It's out in the country, and you look at it, it looks like it could have been made last month. A bunch of old boys with blue jeans, ball caps, you know, driving old cars on dirt roads past farmhouses. It's pretty much like, looks exactly like where we live up in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. So it hasn't aged. It's timeless. And it is exactly the kind of entertainment that families want their kids to watch in the heartland of America. I'm kind of proud to have been a part of that. So we keep it going, and I do know this neck of the woods. We have a store if you're ever down in Gatlinburg, and we have one in Nashville, right across from the Grand Ole Opry. It's been an honor for me to do that. But the show touched another part of me. This flag behind me was a battle flag in the Army of Tennessee. It was also the second naval jack. The Navy used it. But before that, as you see, it is what is known as the St. Andrew's Cross. It is the cross of St. Andrew. It is a Christian cross. St. Andrew was buried in that kind of position, like an X. And so he's been honored that way for centuries and centuries in different ways. When you see that symbol, it's the cross of St. Andrew. It had been used on battle flags before. But it wasn't so much about the battle. It was about the faith of the men who were fighting the battle. That's who we mostly celebrate, commemorate, and honor. It was the men who were out there fighting the battle, and that was the battle flag. That battle flag has been misused, we all know that. It's been used by racists. I always say, yeah, there's probably in America there's several thousand people like that. They desecrate our flag that way. They don't honor the men who fought and died in that war. They don't honor our ancestors by doing that and make us look bad. But they're also out there using the American flag, the same people, and they use the Christian cross. And nobody seems to mind about that. They don't talk about that, but they talk about all those people use that flag. Well, there's a few thousand of them, but you know there are over 70 million Americans who are descended from the Confederate